I always get a lot of questions on this channel about where to start if you're a beginner trader. And I know I do some beginner stuff, but I also get into way advanced stuff too. So what I should have done a long time ago is introduce you guys to someone who does a great job with that beginner content. So today I want to introduce you to my friend Steve Burns. And he runs this site right here called New Trader U, which is really just the best resource for new traders. And Steve right here, this is his Twitter. He has a great Twitter too, you should follow him. He's a really smart guy. He's been doing this for over 20 years. He's a successful trader. He focuses more on systems type trading, just like I do. So of course, you know, I agree with him, but I'm biased. But what he also does a really good job of is breaking down these high level concepts into simple stuff for beginners. So that's why if you are a beginner trader, or even if you're an advanced trader, because he goes over a lot of psychology stuff that is applicable to everyone, regardless of your level. But you could check him out at his website at New Trader U, and I'll put a link to that website down below in the description and comments, along with his Amazon author page, because he's got a ton of great books on how to get started in trading, and he shows you simple strategies that are really effective. And we're actually going to go over one of those strategies in this video, and I'll link to his Twitter as well, which is also just gold. Now, like I said about Steve, he's a great trader, successful guy, and is a great teacher. But my favorite thing about Steve is that he has conquered his ego. And you know, I talk about this all the time about how big the egos are in finance. But you know where the egos get arguably even worse? On the internet. I have dealt with so many of these guys running a website or writing a newsletter, and they walk and talk like they're Paul Tudor Jones or something. It's like, come on, man, you're writing a newsletter, calm down. But their egos are just out of control. So it becomes really tough to deal with them. You don't want to be friends with them, and it makes them bad traders. Conquering your ego is one of the most important things you can do as a trader, but they don't get that, and they think they're internet famous because of their dumb newsletter. Steve is the opposite of that, which is once again why I'm introducing you guys to him, because it's hard to find people like this, and it's why he's such a good trader and such a good teacher. I first started talking to Steve in 2015, I think, when we first started Macro Ops, and we asked him about the game, what to do, and he helped us from day one. He saw our content, he's like, okay, you guys are good, you're not scamming people, you know what you're talking about, I am happy to help. And he's been helping out every day ever since, and he was one of the first big supporters of Fallible when we started this too. Have I said enough about Steve yet? He's just all around great guy, no ego, no bullshit, and just a great person that you want to learn from, which, like I said, hard to find. But okay, I wanted to show you one of the strategies that he has in this book right here. 5 moving average signals that beat buy and hold, by Steve Burns and Holly Burns, which, by the way, I haven't mentioned Holly yet. That's his wife. They run the business together. She's awesome too. And they co-authored all these books that you'll find on Amazon. And again, I'll link to this page down below. Really great couple of people. But okay, so this book is about moving average strategies that work really well. So this is one of the chapters. Actually, the first strategy that he talks about is all about the 200-day moving average, the most popular moving average. And he starts out with a quote from Paul Tudor Jones himself. And PTJ, if you don't know, is one of the market wizards that we've talked about before. I'll link to those videos up above, but he's a legend. Billionaire investor, one of the smartest guys in the game. So here's what he had to say. I teach an undergrad class at the University of Virginia, and I tell my students, I'm going to save you from going to business school. Here, you're getting a $100,000 class, and I'm going to give it to you in 2 thoughts, okay? You don't need to go to business school. You've only got to remember 2 things. The first is you always want to be with whatever the predominant trend is. My metric for everything I look at is the 200-day moving average of closing prices. I've seen too many things go to zero, stocks and commodities. The whole trick in investing is, how do I keep from losing everything? If you use the 200-day moving average rule, then you get out. You play defense and you get out. Paul Tudor Jones has been quoted many times saying that the 200-day moving average is one of the most important indicators that he uses. And by the way, the 200-day moving average is just this blue line right here. Here's an example of one. And this is on the S&P 500. And all a moving average is just an average of prices. So if you're looking at a 200-day moving average, it's the average of the last 200 days prices. So it kind of lets you see a broader trend. So this strategy that Steve talks about in this first chapter is super simple. All it is entering the stock market, and it actually uses the SPY ETF, which is the S&P 500 ETF, which you can easily trade in and out of. So all you have to do, if price is over the 200-day moving average, which is this blue line, you enter. And if it's below this 200-day moving average, you exit. And the one caveat here is that you're only exiting or entering on the last day of each month. So today, when I'm recording this, is July 3rd. So to use this system, you would check where the price is on June 28th, which is the last trading day of the month in June. And you can see that price is above the 200-day moving average. So if you were just starting the system, you would have entered right here. Or if you were already in the system, you would have just held on. The only time you exit is like right here. Look, on May 31st, price was below the 200-day moving average. So because it's the last day of the month, you would have exited. And you actually wouldn't have re-entered until right here, June 28th, now that it's back above. So this is a very long-term, slow-moving strategy. You're only getting signals 12 times a year because there's only 12 months in a year, right? And as you can see, it's extremely simple. So as Steve is going to show you in this book right now, this strategy works in bull markets, bear markets, and sideways markets. It works everywhere. Simple, but effective. So check it out. From January 3rd, 2000 to December 9th, 2016, the SPY buy and hold method, which is just buying SPY and just holding on to it forever until retirement, it had a gain of 125% with a maximum drawdown of 55%. So obviously that 55% drawdown was during the 2008 crisis. Now this moving average strategy in the same time period returned almost 318%, and its maximum drawdown was only 17%. So this simple system almost tripled the returns, and it cut the drawdown by over 2/3. And a drawdown is just a difference in the peak of your equity curve, like the peak of how much you're up compared to the very bottom, how much your equity dropped or your account value. So like here to here was almost a 7% drawdown just recently from May to June in the markets. Peak to trough. It's from the peak to the bottom. Now what about how this strategy does in a sideways market? So from March 24, 2000 to December 30th, 2011, the S&P buy and hold strategy had a gain of 7% with that maximum drawdown again of 55.2%. Again, that 2008 crisis. Now this simple moving average strategy during the same period returned 112.6%. It killed buy and hold, and it still had that maximum drawdown of just 17.3%. So again, just doing much better than buy and hold. And when I'm saying buy and hold, that's basically the equivalent to what just the general market is doing. So if you're beating buy and hold, you're beating the market. And you can see in this last example that you crush the market. Now, what about if you traded from the stock market peak to the stock market bottom? Well, from October 2007 to March 2009, the S&P lost 52.8% with a max drawdown of 55.2%. Now this moving average strategy lost only 1.1% and had a maximum drawdown of 4.6%. So you avoided the huge losses and cut the drawdown by over 90%. And like I said, this strategy is so simple. You just look once a month and see whether you need to buy or sell, just depending on whether SPY is above or below the 200-day moving average. And it's that simple, but it's that effective. And that's the thing that Steve really understands, is that simplicity in the markets is key. A lot of people will try to sell you on doing all this complicated stuff with all these fancy indicators, but you don't need any of that. You just need something simple that you can understand that works. And you could do much better than the markets. You can do much better than a lot of the professionals out there. And it really is that simple. Now, I'm not going to say it's super easy because there is a big psychological component that goes into this. If you have your psychology under control, then yeah, it is easy. But a majority of traders, need to work on this, because when your money's on the line, your mind does some crazy stuff and it makes you want to go against your system. Because for a system like this simple moving average system to work, you need to follow each signal exactly. You can't be trading in and out between signals. That will ruin the strategy completely. But to follow that strategy with your money on the line, you need that psychological management. And that's once again something that Steve goes over on his website, which I'll link to below. And I'll link to his author page because he has just so many great books that will teach you a ton about markets and how to beat them. And I really like the books because there's no fluff in them. He gets directly to the point. He tells you what you need to know and cuts out the rest. A lot of trading books I can't stand because there's so much fluff and I don't have time for that. Steve's are great though. And like I said, I should have introduced you to him a long time ago. And I kind of forget sometimes how lucky I am because my dad was a portfolio manager. So he taught me a lot of the stuff and gave me the best resources straight out of the gate. And one of the hardest things in the markets when you're first starting out is finding the actual right resources to learn from, because there's so much bullshit out there and there's so many scams. It's tough. So hopefully now that you got Steve, this should make the entire process much easier. He can do for you what my dad did for me. So once again, I'll put all the links to his stuff in the description and the comments down below. Definitely go check him out. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell so you get an email notification whenever our new videos come out. We're publishing almost every day all about the markets and business. So subscribe and I'll see you in the next video. Stay fallible out there. Bye.